has 100% in there,
Mm-hmm.
in cash reserves. Does that mean that we have to do something with that money, or?
Yeah. We don't have to spend it. We cannot leave it in the fund, no. It cannot have more than 33% reserves, extra money, unbudgeted. So that's why we're able to put it into a CIP and to help pay for TVs, phones, games, that kind of thing. Those are capital expenditures for the welfare and morale of inmates.
So we're not gonna get in trouble with the auditors if we got excess money in that account?
No, in fact, we will get in trouble with the auditors if we leave the excess money in the account.
So we have to move it into the CIP?
Correct.
And then the CIP is available for them to use?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And what we'll need to do is instruct Debbie to create that CIP. So that should be one of our votes today. The museum is a little shy by $1,700. That's not much. My guess is if there is an increase in mills, that'll make the difference.
So is that, I mean, in, like, say, past years, is that something that, is for the museum to be in a deficit like that? I'm just asking.
No, not usually. Last, 2 years ago, we took the reserves from a number of departments. Museum was one of them, fair, search and rescue,
Fire
extension.
Okay, so that's part of that,
It is.
okay,
Yeah, I think
Okay.
this is just residuals.
okay.
Yeah. And that would be something to talk to Linda about, see if she has an idea. And nobody's seen these yet, so our department heads aren't aware
Sure.
of some of this.
Mhm.
So when they look at their expenditures and they look at their revenue and they know they've balanced, until you get all these other pieces included, we really don't know where we sit.
Mhm.
That's why this is such an important and valuable document. Now, I will say, this used to be all we got for the budget, and we changed that about 10 years ago, because that wasn't the best practice. So, health insurance, employee contribution, and permissive mill levy. Debbie and Michelle will actually do probably a budget amendment, since one's at 17 and one's at 37. Can't have a CIP for those, and so we'll just up one and lower the other. Search and rescue is sitting at 49% reserves. And so some of that will go to their CIP, which will help them pay for either the boat they're looking for or another piece of equipment. Don't need a reserve on litigation. Safety, we don't need a reserve. And I think that's all of them. The rest are grants, and those kind of live by different rules. And then on the next page, the CIPs are also
Jump
different.
vehicle at 55.
That one, I believe, we put into our CIP. There was a issue with the legislature where they were gonna try and take some of that back. So we fought that, and we won, and I believe they are beholden to the 33%, so that'll also go to a CIP. That was used last year, I think, to buy a vehicle and a trailer. Do you want to go through page 2, or,
Yeah, we got a couple minutes.
okay. So I'm going to skip all the grants and stuff we have no control over, which takes us really to, I guess, an overview until the bottom here. So with the CIPs, they don't have any reserves. You'll see at the bottom we have solid waste, and that is an enterprise fund. And what you see there is a cash balance, the 301,646. That's a Pilton Fusion. So what we can do, I think to get the budget done, we may have to plan on a Pilt infusion and then through this next couple of months, pursue the Bureau of Investments. I also think we can look at those budgets and whittle that down a little bit. But that's how we have an 18% reserves at this point, which is really good for a department that is running in the negative. And this is not of Mary's doing. Next one is Silos. Silos is running in a deficit right now because of the docks grant. I just don't think it funded everything. And so we're gonna have to look at how we're going to balance this, get it to zero so that it can get back to zero. We can't just refuse any safety or maintenance out there. And of course, it's not the manager's or concessionaire's responsibility to pay for it personally. It does need to come from the sinking fund. That's how it was set up. And that's what this budget is. So that's something else we can look at and maybe come up with a plan for. And then the last page is, I think, more of the same. Yeah. So she took all the trust and agency accounts out. These are the ones that we have authority over. And to address fair planning extension, solid waste and silos, we could wait till next week. Give Debbie a list of questions and put something together.
Yeah, let's do that. I know she's not here today, so.
Right. Makes it tough. One thing I will do though is move to create a CIP for the inmate welfare fund.
I'll second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded to create a CIP for the inmate welfare and moral fund. Is there any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of hard to follow all this. I'm wondering if we could get copies of all this that you're going through.
She emailed this to us, didn't she? Did she not?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll get you a copy of it, Corin.
And then I have a question for Brandon. I guess, is this how you would intend to use excess funds from this inmate, whatever you want to call it, our welfare?
Well, I mean, if the fundings have to go somewhere, you know, if it can't be over that percentage, I'm fine with that, so.
When is the upgrade gonna happen with the phone system?
It's already happened.
It's already in place?
It's already happened, and this money is from moving that, money over from, the state bank into the county's accounts, which we do, monthly, about roughly transfers now. So the money goes into that account, and then we transfer it over, as we get it, so. It's just if it builds up, it goes to a savings and we still have access to it, that's fine. So that's what has to be done.
Has that account always been that full?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of funding over at the state bank, and then when we talked with the auditor and he, told us to move that, but not move it until the start of this fiscal year, but, we found that, I was like, no, we're gonna move it now, if it's not supposed to be there, so that's what we did. And that's why you see so much money. We don't spend a whole lot out of there because it is very limited of what you can spend it on. We're not buying TVs every day or anything, so, and clothing, things like that, so. I imagine it'll be a fairly large account. And it'll always be pretty big issue, it'll just continue to grow.
Any further discussion? Have a vote on the motion to create the CIP, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same, motion carries.
I guess I have a general question. There's been some discussion about the idea of setting the budget on as last year's mills rather than this year's mills, because I know some of the revenue you're talking about there is based on an assumption of what we think it's gonna be, we won't know for a while. It seems to me that if you did that, it would be a very, number one, it'd be a certain number, plus it'd be a pretty conservative approach. And what my guess is that within a year or two, you'd end up having a point where you could both have a lot of predictability with everyone's reserves, as well as very good predictability of what's the COLA gonna be and can we pay for it? Have you guys, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that'd be the best, that's the best way to do it, because then even if you go over, if you go over your budget, you still have it built into it.
Right.
And then if you don't need to spend it, we can save that money and build up these CIPs where we need them to be at, and our reserves. And then we can also expand some programs if we can hang on to those, you know, if we don't get into a situation where we have to spend our reserves.
Do you think we're in a position where you could do it this year?
We already have. So when we started our conversation, one thing that I pointed out was this column 10, right here that says the mill value is worth 16,047, and said that was last year's value.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That is what was used to determine column, column property tax values, column 6. So we've already done it. This is based off of last year's
Right.
mill values. Again, pointing out some positives to the budget. General fund has come up to 14% reserves with last year's mill value numbers. I think that's fantastic. We have a couple of departments that are going to have excesses going into CIPs from last year's mill value numbers. One thing, when we do get the increase, then we'll have a stronger idea on the ones that are in the negative. So fair, extension, library, and the others. Public safety being at 9% with last year's mill value numbers and getting the high number of mills, that's significant. That shows tremendous budgeting on that. Frugality, if that's even a word, but I just made it one. So, yeah, we've already done it, and have really overall a very strong looking budget.
Can I just follow up for that? So, I mean, number one, can't see the document. I mean, it'd help if we could have these.
I thought you got a copy. I just assumed you got a copy. It was emailed to me. I assumed that you got a copy. Sorry. Yeah,
And
we'll
if
get
I
you
did, I wasn't aware that's what we were gonna be looking at today. But I thought, Commissioner Robert, you said at the beginning that you had a discussion with a gentleman that gave you guys an estimate of the increase over last year's mill values, and that was actually the revenue number that you guys were using there.
No, I just reiterated the information so that we are all on the same page.
Okay.
Our mill values, the chances it's going to flatline again are extremely low. So, yeah, just reiterated the news. Nothing more than that.
so from his information, our mills will go up $481 per mill.
No, that is the very conservative number that Debbie proposed to this commission that we
Oh,
use.
okay.
So when she sent out one of her first memos and said, go ahead and plan on a 3% increase, that was that $481
Oh, okay.
per mill.
Okay,
Yep. And really with determining inflationary increases of expenses, you really do need to look at some kind of an increase. There is and they were gonna give us a presentation on this, but there's a philosophy that is taught against with accounting, especially governmental accounting, that you do not estimate revenues low and expenditures high. Because what you end up doing is making poor decisions because you're not working with your information accurately. You need to be as accurate as possible. don't undercut yourself and don't overestimate. And there are some people that will turn in those kinds of budgets, and that's where Debbie and Michelle have both gone to trainings, and they say that's really poor budgeting. So something they work on is trying to make sure we have accurate numbers. And she may have done this because of Bill's presentation, I don't know. This isn't, what was proposed to us at the beginning, but I'm glad she did, because even if this is upgraded, and we'll have those numbers here shortly, this still gives us a really good sense of where we're starting from. And again, having such a strong budget with last year's mill numbers is really exciting.
So we end up, when do we get those, August 5th?
It's like the first, it's in our memo. It's the beginning of August.
It's the Monday after the first Tuesday, or something like that.
Yeah, it's expected August 5th, and yeah, it's convoluted wording exactly like that. First Monday after the first Tuesday after the full moon, when the Jupiter is in its third quadrant. Okay, now it's simple. First Monday in August or before, and then a countdown starts. We have 30 days to adopt the budget. Last year, they got it to us the Friday before that. We were ready, I think, but you lose 3 days. When you get it on Friday, you lose that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So the better prepared we can be, the better for us, the better for everybody.
Okay, let's see.
Mr. Chairman, I could,
Yes, sir.
just a real quick question. If one of the funds are in a negative balance, how can, I'm just trying to get a clarification here, how can you have a cash reserve or a CIP still having a positive balance if the general working fund of that particular side of things is in a negative?
Well, if you're referring to the solid waste, it's because we put we're gonna put $300,000 in there from Tilt or from the Board of Investments loan to fill that fund from the negative balance that's in right now. So presumably by the end of the year, you would have that CIP money, that reserve money.
Okay, so that way that reserve and that CIP stays
That would
in
be
place.
the end result next June.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Just trying to get a clear picture on how that works. Thank you.
Anything else on that, or do you wanna?
If we do, since Debbie's not here, I'm gonna guess our 11:15 is canceled. If we do have
Okay.
extra time, I would like to maybe dive into those departments that were,
Well, I think Corey, you have the,
Yeah, I can give you an update on that next event.
okay,
Can we just do that real fast?
yes. Do we have those
So the-
contracts here?
The documents that we're referring to, Debbie sent these to me. The background is, we just completed a collective bargaining agreement for the road department and for the sheriff's office. And it was the initial agreement for the road department. They unionized, they actually organized a long time ago. It's been a very lengthy negotiation. I think it's been a year and a half at least, so. But the result of that was a 3-year agreement. Effective date is July 1, 2019, so the beginning of this month. There are some items that can be reopened prior to the end of the 3 years, but that's the gist of it. And then also there was a 3-year renewal for the sheriff's office. That one is 3 years from the date of the expiration of the previous one, so that's July 1, 2018. So we're already 13 months into that 3-year agreement. What happened was, in prior years, Teamsters Trust hadn't, and we had not completed all the documents associated with the health insurance component of it. So Broadwater County employees, as part of this agreement with a collective bargaining requirement being having departments that are unionized by Teamsters, the requirement then is that we use their health insurance for their trust, and that we can offer, in fact, are required to offer that health insurance to all full-time county employees, whether they're in the bargaining union or not. And full-time is defined as at least 30 hours a week and 120 hours a month, okay? So that corollary agreement, which is the agreement for the health insurance for the county, was the document that wasn't actually completed the last time we did these collective bargaining agreements, even though we still did the health insurance functionality of it. So I have two documents here. One is the participation agreement for the Teamsters Trust health insurance for the sheriff's office. And it's very simple. It's just agreement between us and the trust, and it specifies beginning date July 1, 2018, ending June 30th, 2022. And it is a renewal. We're already participating in the trust. And it's the requirement for coverage. Eligibility is 120 hours per month or 30 hours per week for the employee. They have to work, not just work, they work, be compensated, or be employee hiring status. So in other words, if you're gone for, I don't know, 20 hours vacation and you work 10 hours work that week, that still counts. That's uncompensated, okay? And it says Health and Welfare Plan number 14, which is our plan designation. So, this one's in accordance with our agreement. And I'm not sure if you guys want to sign and execute it now, or if you want to double check with Debbie if there's any other items that need to be done. But in terms of my review, it's good to go. Second document is for the road department, and it's a new new identification of a bargaining group, and that is the road department. And so its effective dates are July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2022. You know what? So that's a 4-year. Does that say through June 30th, 2022 or 2021?
7/1/18 to 6/30/22.
So that's and I wasn't in those negotiations, so,
You were the
If that,
road.
that's the insurance, that wasn't part of our negotiation.
right, but it's supposed to match the term of the sheriff's CBA,
Oh,
so.
typo.
So I'll email Debbie and ask her to double check that date.
Yeah.
That's the only issue that document that I see. So this one is just the one with the road department, and again, 120 hours per month as the employee eligibility for health insurance. And it just lists that every employee has a 6-month probationary date. That applies to both bargaining and non-bargaining. So what these documents do is they reflect that an employee is covered under this agreement, whether they're part of the bargaining unit or they're not part of the bargaining unit, so long as they meet that eligibility requirement. So, in fact, there's some employees that could be a member of the bargaining unit if they're a part-time seasonal for the roads, but they might not be eligible for health insurance because they might be under that 30-hour threshold. There you go. I'll email Debbie about the date on the one,
Yeah,
and other than that, I'm good with them.
but that part-time employee is not required to be a member of the union, right?
So, no employee is actually required to be a part of the union based on the U.S. Supreme Court decision from a couple years ago.
But they can be.
They can be,
If they want it
yes.
to be.
So there are a lot of different categories of employees, but if an employee, let's say the same employee comes on part-time every summer and does 15 hours, 20 hours a week and helps on the road department. And they do it every summer, you know. If it's basically after the first summer, if they come back and resume what basically is a seasonal job, then they become part of the bargaining unit because
Okay,
they're considered a recurring seasonal employee.
okay.
If it's just a short-term, one-time, hire a high school kid and you never see them again, they're not part of the bargaining unit.
Okay.
That's all I have.
I would like to postpone that vote till we get reflection from Debbie. Does this
Okay.
answer all her
Yeah.
needs and questions regarding payroll and monitoring of the health insurance?
Right, and there's still a little bit of a question on the other insurance company that, as far as there's some language that needed to be taken care of. And the question came about when, is it part-time employees are asked to work overtime, and it changes everything.
Right, right.
I don't know
That-
where we're at with that.
Yeah. One of the things that concerns me is the 120 or 30 a week.
Mhm.
That's exactly what you're talking about. Somebody works 32
Right.
hours in a week, even though they're a part-time employee who does under 120 a month. Debbie it would be a nightmare to be popping people on and off.
Right, and I think the other part with that was folks that are still on their probationary period,
Yeah, yeah,
and they took time off, so they didn't meet the hour requirements.
yeah. Yeah,
Meaning they hadn't built up enough vacation.
Correct.
To, yeah, so it was uncompensated time.
Uncompensated
Right.
time, exactly. So I don't know if we have that ironed out yet, do we? I don't think we do.
I don't either. And that's why I would be real hesitant to sign anything until Debbie gives it the okay.
Right.
Yeah. And then, of course, I do not recall, and Corey, you were involved in the road negotiations pretty intimately. I don't recall that we did a 4-year contract. I think that is a typo.
No, so that one's referring to the, I think that's another thing to clarify, because the 3-year contract would be, with the road, would be from this July 1, that's already passed, through June 30th of 2022. That date reflects going back to July 1 of 2018. And it's possible that they actually wrote it in a way to include continuity, right, from expiration of sheriff's office through the end date of the road one.
Right.
But the road one expires June 30th, 2022, with provision that it can be reopened for negotiations a year before that, which wouldn't affect the health insurance either way.
Okay, thanks, Corey.
So at this point, whenever you get back on track with Debbie, you can proceed with her, and you don't need to wait on me for,
Okay.
unless something new comes up, you want me to look at it, I will.
Okay. Okay, let's see, 11:45, Mike Conkey, disaster emergency services. Contract with Montana State University School of Architecture students for Wheatland Public Works and Safety Building.
Thanks, Mike.
You bet. Okay, commissioners, we talked about this, we had a meeting last Wednesday down there, and it's the same handout,
Same handout, yeah.
same handout, and that's what we're kinda looking at. As you recall, about a year ago, we were interested in something with the ambulance building. And I contacted Montana State University Architecture Department, I knew because I was a graduate of MSU, just like Laura and I, because they had a program for doing outreach to communities. And they sent 2 architectural students over here, and we looked at building an EMS building. I'll show you the product we got for them, from them, and we want to do the same product down at Three Forks. This is what we got from them. These were 2 architectural students, they were graduate students, and their assignment is to, we were interested in perhaps applying for a USDA, a Rural Development Grant loan, and we needed a preliminary architectural feasibility study. And that's where their charge gave them. And they came down here for about 6 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. And we met with them 4 or 5 times, the ambulance crew and I did. And they came up with this proposal. And then what they did is we asked them to go energy efficient, stuff like that. So We got this through a summer program, free of charge, because those two students were in a class. Now, that class won't recycle until next summer, first part of next summer. But what MSU has offered to us is an opportunity to use their Architecture Community Design Center. Now, this is an email that I forwarded to you from the MSU professor, Johnson. And he talks about giving us an opportunity to use their center. Now, page 2 here is a little write-up about MSU Architectural School Community Design Center. And on page 3 is the preliminary architectural feasibility requirements step. So, we are in the process of trying to develop something down in Three Forks of Wheatland area for the sheriff's office, kind of like a substation. The rural fire district, which is, everybody, it's on this page here, is the rural fire district. That's separate than the Broadwater County Rural Fire District. That's their own fire district. And that was formed in 1961. They're responsible for providing structural fire protection, wildland fire protection. That district is also the ambulance district. The ambulance and fire department now comes up out of Three Forks, across the river, into Broadwater County to serve that area. They need a fire station. The ambulance would like to park a vehicle in that station. And the sheriff's office needs some type of a substation. And the different criteria I wrote up on this proposal here is sheriff's office needs, you know, an office, a holding cell, security, evidence room, different things like that. That's on page 1. And then the needs from the fire department and ambulance are on page 2. And then I have some recommendations for site criteria. And we've talked about those before. So the question is now, is if we're going to use MSU architectural students to do something for us, now they want money.
Especially if there's a change, huh?
Now, see, we got it because we're a free class. That class won't come until next spring.
Mm-hmm.
And if no graduate students participate in it, then nobody wants to do the design for us. So this is the model they did for us. It's for an ambulance station, which was 3 bays. The lot site we used was down on North Spruce Street on Broadwater County government property. And it was just free, and we just sat down with those students. They did an excellent job. What they did is they looked at the building codes for this county, building codes of the state of Montana, looked at the needs, what the ambulance service needs. We looked at perhaps housing. You look at that plan, it has got, this is a floor plan. What they came up with is we gave them our criteria and we asked them to come up with a solution to our problem. And what they came up with, 3 ambulance bays, and this is what the facility looked like. And they have a training area here, an office, and then they had some bedrooms and sleeping quarters. Now, our ambulance service has progressed recently from 100% volunteers to 2 paramedics that rotate. There's a paramedic on for 7 days.
Oh,
Broadwater Health Center, and then that paramedic's off and another paramedic's on. So when our ambulance service rolls, it has a paramedic and then a volunteer. That is the future of emergency services in rural Montana. A lot of counties have gone that way, so we need to build for the future. And that may be the same thing we want to do down in the southern end of the county, is build for the future. What's nice about that, we've automatically, our ambulance service is elevated from basic life support to advanced paramedic care. That's good for guys like me that have heart attacks and strokes. It's good for our community to have that type of service. And I think we want to maintain that kind of service. Broadwater Health Center right now does that, pays for it. Now, as we're doing this transition into a new health care provider for the hospital, we have to keep that in mind. Are they interested in operating the ambulance service or not? Now, that's a separate issue. But what I want to do, if that's okay with the commissioners, is use the architectural department to design something for southern Broadwater County. On that site location we're looking at north of Ron's diesel wrecking yard. But I don't have $3,000 in my budget to do this. So anyway, I just wanna run that proposal by you. This is the email I got. Since then, the University, Marion O'Neill, Conrad got hold of me, sent me an email, and wants to know, are we gonna proceed, and where do we wanna meet? Basically, what we did with the students, the EMS building, the ambulance building down here in this area, was we sat down with them and we gave them a kind of a little criteria, something very similar to this, told them what we wanted. And we walked through the old ambulance building and we sat down with them. They came back with 4 proposals, 4 ideas, their conceptual ideas.
Okay.
And we picked one. We picked this one because it made more sense. And then we wanted them to go for energy efficient, the long-term future. We wanted it designed so you could put solar on top of the roof, and the roof would support it. And we want one of those LEEP, Commissioner Delby, what does that mean? It means something to do, I can't remember what the acronym means.
You talking lead?
The elite,
Energy,
energy efficient stuff, yeah.
energy efficient development.
So anyway, that's, I think we want to design for the future. And if that's what the commission wants to do, we'll sit down with the university architectural students and do the same thing.
So in your process that you went through, Mike, everybody had an opportunity to be involved, so for you, this building was just the ambulance crew, right?
Just the ambulance crew. What we would do is
With
we'd
us-
meet down there with
yeah.
those students, we'd have the sheriff's office involved,
Right.
ambulance district, fire department, and then the commissioners to see what you want.
Okay.
And all we need, if we're gonna apply for a USDA rural development grant or any type of a grant, we need a preliminary architectural design.
Right.
That's what we need. You know, a feasibility study with cost, and just an idea. So we could take this, when we're ready to build, go to an architect, and then we'll design, do the plumbing, electrical, and all that stuff with the contractor, and then build. And I know this proposal's down the road a ways, but that's kind of my job, is look at the future, look down the road. What are our needs, long-term needs for emergency services in our county, both up here in the northern part of the county and then the southern end of the county. And we've got a golden opportunity down there, I think, with the Wheatland development area. And there's a need, we've met with them now. Brandon and the sheriff and I had, Commissioner Wolpert have met with them now for 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months. We meet down there one meeting a month, usually, and sit and visit with them. It has all the players, it has fire department, ambulance, sheriff's office. Even one time we had the sheriff from Gallatin County meet with us. We had the mayor from the city, the old mayor and the new mayor, and visit with them about their needs for public safety services in that area of the county. And it's been a really good meeting, eye-opening, and that's how we got kind of aware of the bike trail, Copper City bike trail stuff, which I still haven't got anything back from them yet on their events. But we're working on that. Do you have any questions?
No. I would imagine that this approach is probably a pretty substantial savings versus hiring an engineer to do this process, right?
Yeah, we just need a preliminary
Right.
architectural
Right.
feasibility study. And that is a requirement for a lot of grant applications. We use the criteria for USDA rural development grant. When we sat down with the students from MSU to sit down, they're really terrific, very brilliant people. And they gave us some ideas like for the long-term future, energy savings, and what's the future of EMS down the road in rural Montana. And no matter what happens, we're all gonna use the ambulance service. Now, the ambulance service, right after the sheriff's office, the ambulance service has most of the calls, the next highest number of calls before the fire departments. They go to a lot of calls. They are up to over 400 a year, is that correct? 400 calls
Yeah.
a year, so that's more than an average of one a day. But anyway, that's kind of the future, paramedic. That's good level of care, that's good care, I'd like to see us maintain that care. When I was in the ambulance service back in the 90s, we were just basic. And one of the vision plans we had for Broad Road Health Center at that time was to go towards advanced care, eventually reach that. So anyway, sorry we can't do it free.
Right.
But that was just something we had an opportunity to jump at. It was just kind of academic exercise for them, but it was a learning experience for us to know what the future is. And they went and talked to a lot of different ambulance services. They dealt real close with Mosaic, is that architectural firm, and Helena. That gave them a lot of, they kind of coached them and provided these to students on how to look at energy efficient, long-term, and had a look at the site. And had dealt with floodplain and all that kind of stuff, how much that needs to be elevated and stuff like that. And the acreage and parking and everything. They did a really good job, and we kept it within the parameters of what we wanted.
Did they give you an
We didn't want to design a monument to an architect.
Right. Did they give you an estimated cost then as well?
Pardon?
They give you an estimated cost?
They did,
Okay.
over $400,000,
Okay. Good.
but gave us some options,
Right.
how to shrink that down.
Okay.
It's not the top of the line. You know, I think Three Forks, they spent $400,000 on their ambulance building down there.
Okay.
Instead of doing the peak roof, we came with a kind of a slout roof, and that is for solar eventually.
Right.
And then we wanted to look at other options too. We looked at washing the vehicles inside and how you're gonna control the wastewater and things like that. Those are different solutions, different things they came up. We have a nice thick report. We'll get a copy of it to you. They were great students and they were a pleasure to work with. And all we had to do was buy them is coffee and donuts. At the bakery.
That's quite a nice trade,
It is,
yeah.
but they
And
had,
they got great donuts,
they did.
yeah.
Good copy. They were really good. They were very, very good at helping us with our plan, keeping the costs down, focusing on what needs to be done or should be done. Just a plan for the future. We have no money to do it, and but I think that's the future. We need to go some way. So anyway, back to southern Broadwater County, Wheatland area.
Okay.
Give that some thought. I need to put together something for the, what do they call it, the community project, community, what do they call it? Community Design Center, MSU Architecture's Community Design Center, kind of like a criteria of what we're looking at, site location, just like we did with this. We needed some sleeping quarters for EMTs, we needed a minimum of 3 bays, we needed some training, we needed a secure area to store meds, records, medical records and stuff like that. And we'll need the same type of stuff for the Three Forks ambulance sites. Apparently, sometime it mentioned they'll apparently go paramedic as well. But that's, if we design a building for them, we need to keep all that in mind. I think they're looking at 1 bay, and I think the fire department is looking with, they'd like to drive through, park 2 vehicles together, door on each side, isn't that what Keith, the fire
Right.
chief said down
Without at
Things
least,
like that.
at least one bay that would be a drive-through bay,
Mhm.
possibly.
there? So anyway,
Okay.
next project is there.
One of the things for making this decision is we're not paying any money for the TED. Because there was conflict on this commission about whether to even pursue this TED, roughly a year ago, MBAC said, you know what, I'll pay it now. And we have an agreement, you know, for how that will work out, but that's about, I think, $25,000 that we saved on the front end. So we do have some money that we could put to future planning. I would be happy to vote for the $3,000 to have this PAR done
Where
for this
would we,
safety.
what fund would we pull that out of?
What it would have come out of would be probably the Wheatland turn lanes. Because it is economic development. It's called a targeted economic development district, so it's good marriage. That would be my suggestion.
Okay.
If you wanted to look at a fund, we'd have to go through Debbie,
Right,
but, state allocated mineral royalties, hard rock mining, I don't know which of those can be used. That would be Debbie's expertise.
Okay.
Everything else within the budget pretty much is spoken for. CIPs perhaps, because this would be capital, so the ambulance has a little bit, you could add from each of those different departments.
That ambulance is for the ambulance, not in that area,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at
different
that
ambulance
part.
district.
Yeah, and that would be something
this
we'd
is
have to
for-
look at. I'm just throwing, thoughts out to illustrate, I think, that there isn't any place within the different funds that screams that this would be what this is for.
Mhm.
But the Wheatland Turn Lanes does. So that was my point, so thanks for, asking for the clarification there, Mike. Yeah, I just don't see anything else that would be clear. There are others, we could take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and add it to get $3,000. It's not as clean.
What we could do is sit down with them and have them come up with a better estimate. This is just his first email out. We have to meet with Marilyn, Marie, excuse me, Marie O'Neill, Conrad, the head of the, sit down with them. Once they see our scope of our project and how much it's gonna cost. Usually basically their costs cover their travel down here for meetings, and then the cost of the material, put all that together. This model here, that was a 3D printer, they just plug it
Oh,
in.
nice.
When I was a kid, we used to take cardboard, cut it up, stick it together when I was an architecture class.
That's pretty impressive.
But that was 50 years ago.
So you don't want the agenda says contract, you don't want to necessarily enter into a contract, but you want us to
Do
give
we
you
want me to
permission
pursue it?
to move
You want me
ahead.
to pursue it?
Yeah,
And then try to get them to come in with a cost, and we might enter into an agreement with a memorandum of understanding contract. This is just trying to present you with what they have done for us with our ambulance building proposal here in northern Broadwater County. And I'd like to do the same thing down there. But the deal with this was free, because it was a course. And you read his email, and he can't do that unless that class comes up next year, and they gotta have students. This happened to be 2 graduates. One was from Alaska, and where's the other one from? Wyoming. So they knew a lot about rural areas. It was really good, they were excellent. Excellent, just meticulous with details.
well, I would move to request that you proceed,
Okay,
Mike, and return with a
more financial
more
proposal.
firm proposal of the scope and
Sure.
cost.
Very good.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Well, I think that's excellent.
Anyway. Thank you, thanks for your time.
Here, save this for somebody else, I've already got a copy.
Yep,
Thank
yeah,
you.
same one I handed out
Yep.
Wednesday night. Did you get one in? No. Okay. Anybody else want one?
We should probably second that if you guys are so
Yeah.
inclined with those.
Mhm.
Official?
So I'll second the motion.
Motion been made and second to approve.
Thanks for your help.
Have Conkey go ahead with the MSU Architectural Design Center for a building in the Wheatland area for public safety ambulance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. So we have the 12 o'clock, the Bureau of Investments intercap loan for purchase and renovations to courthouse annex, commonly referred to as the Opportunity Bank.
So that was good news, that came in. We were granted the full amount that we're asking for. It is a refund loan, or reimbursement loan, excuse me. So the way it works, this is the second one we've been awarded. As we expend the money, we turn the receipts in to BOI, and they return that amount of money to us.
Okay.
So we do have to have a fund for that, and we'll have to put a little bit into it, but that will all be reimbursed through this. And then we will pay it back on I think I went for the maximum, which is 15 years. And it will be at whatever the interest rate is,
Right.
3 point something. So if we want to go that route, there is an additional $50,000 in the grant request for renovations, making the building more energy efficient, doing the minimal work that we need to the garages, to the office spaces to make it work. And if we don't spend all of the $250, which Mike thinks that's way more than we need, then we just don't incur that debt. So if we just use, say, 15, then we just have that amount that we're paying back, not the full 200. So it'd be the 150 purchase plus 15 for renovation, so 165 in that case.
So this is a loan from $200,000 from the Montana Board of Investment.
And the idea is this will house, if needed, the ambulance, and if not, there's a number of other departments with needs, so that won't be a hardship. But I would imagine there might be some overlap where we'll be working with the hospital to help you guys out. And extension, 4-H, fair, and weed mosquito possibly. And that would be up to those department heads. We'll, with this, start the negotiations of what does this look like.
And in reading that, it takes 3 to 4 weeks to create the loan documents.
Yeah,
So at this point, we're just to proceed to go ahead to have them create the loan documents, and then, once we get those, then we can approve them or not.
right. So this is essentially approving
Yeah.
the loan,
Mhm.
and then we'll have the documents also to approve.
Right.
And if we decide that we're just not gonna even do this, then, obviously, there's no withdrawal on this, so there's no loan. The one in Pilt that we have the intercap loan for, that was actually for engineering done for the building project. We had a couple of different iterations, and this was a later iteration that added to that.
Right.
So this is totally separate.
Right. So, Mike, in your conversations with the Brownsfield folks, they're looking end of September, right? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
That's probably the earliest.
Right.
That meeting with the Petro Board is August 26th,
Okay.
and that would be the final determining date.
All right, good.
And then you'll have to get contractors and mobilized. Yeah, I think that's what Earl said was probably the latter part of September.
Okay, good.
So if this is gonna take us
Yeah.
4 weeks, then we need to probably get this, we just need to approve this, that we're gonna do this loan, and they're gonna send us these documents.
Right.
This
Correct.
thing really doesn't have anything on it.
No.
Right, but this
It's just a
also,
letter of approval.
right, and
Right.
do we accept that? This also gives us the ability to get back to Tyler and let him know we haven't
Mhm.
fallen off the edge of
Okay.
the earth.
Right.
We are still moving forward with this project.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking this, the time frame works, and we need to get
Yeah.
this done. And, so we have all those things in hand if that's what we decide to do.
So when we get notification from Tyler, we need to make sure that all that stuff goes to Corey also.
Oh, yeah.
Cause
Yeah.
we want everything to make
There's
sure.
a whole resolution within the loan documents that requires the county attorney to approve and sign.
Okay,
So, it's not only us, but also, I think, also the clerk and recorder treasurer and county attorney. So
okay.
it's a full partnership.
Right. Okay, well, I guess I would make the motion that we send the Board of Investments our approval to proceed with this loan and to receive the documents.
I will second that with a friendly amendment that we also use this as a avenue to inform Tyler that we are
Sure.
moving forward.
Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded to inform the Montana Board of Investments that we approve approve this loan and also to notify Tyler Emmert at Opportunity Bank that we are proceeding with the loan to purchase the building. Any further discussion? Yes, Tim?
Just real quick question, the expected closure date on this, with this loan process taking several weeks, is there any kind of a time frame on that? And then follow up on top of that, what is the Board of Investments interest rate on this loan?
When do they what?
What is the interest rate on the loan that is
It's
sought?
variable and it's adjusted every February 16th, I think it says.
Right. And then last, where is the money come from to repay the loan? Since we're on the discussion, maybe it's premature to ask that.
Well, I think our payments would come out of Pilt and then from whoever using the building. I don't know what the situation with we don't know what the situation with the ambulance is gonna be depending on what happens with the hospital. They'll be taking over 2 bays in the back shop. Maintenance is gonna use part of the building, and then extension will use the front of the building. So all of those accounts would be charged a percentage, I would imagine.
Gotcha. And then there will be a hearing on adopting the resolution, or is that just pretty much taken care of now at this point? After review?
I don't know that we need it to adopt a resolution.
There actually will be quite a lengthy resolution to adopt. It is not a simple process. We are accepting the process, essentially. But yeah, it's quite convoluted. There will be resolutions. This will be, as it has already been, a fully public process. And we'll follow each step in public meetings and keep the public fully aware. It's been exciting how much support there is for this. So, yeah, it should be a very positive move for the community.
Yes, Cheryl?
So there's a signed firm contract, what was the price on this?
It's $150,000 for the property, and then there's approximately, what'd you say, Mike, about 30 for renovation, if that much?
Yeah, approximately.
The loan limit on this is 200,000, but we'll only borrow what we absolutely need. Any other comment or debate? Motion's been made, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries.
Does this require a signature anywhere?
What's that?
Does this require a signature anywhere to send
I
back?
looked through it, I didn't see any place where it required a signature. We
Okay.
just need to send them a notification that we approved it.
All right. Excellent. I don't see a signature line either. If it's good with you, I'd be more than happy to email Louise back and let her know, and
Yeah.
also email Tyler. And as always, make sure you guys are CC'd.
Okay, let's see. Personnel hours, job descriptions for assistant positions shared between community development, district court, finance, and sanitarian. So do we want Val for this, or?
Yeah, I think all of them. Nicole and Sean are both gone, so maybe
Both
we
gone,
postpone
yeah.
that. But if we had, Mary's already proceeding, so it would be Val and Debbie's gone. So,
Do we wanna get Val and Michelle then, or?
we can try it. Couldn't hurt. I don't know how much talking Michelle has done with Debbie. I don't know that Michelle will be comfortable moving ahead without Debbie, but I think we could certainly ask her. They may have had a conversation about what the job requirements would be.
Okay.
And Val certainly knows for herself and her own department, so we can at least get the whole process started.